Mamar Vehu Oimeid of Shabbos Parshas Vayera Chof Cheshvan Tovshin Yud Gimel in Teres Menachem Sefer HaMamorim Tovshin Yud Gimel. We are on page Chof Tes. We're up to Ois Gimel, chapter 3. Shiur Inyan. We're in the middle of discussing the idea of eating. The eating of the angels, or that took place when they visited Avraham Avinu, according to the two interpretations, whether they actually ate, according to the Zohar, or they seemed to be eating, according to the Medrash. Then we were discussing also, from that the Rebbe went into the idea of the two consumptions, as Chazal say, as our sages say, the consumption of man and the consumption of the altar, in terms of bringing a korban, and also the fact that the consumption of the kohanim, of the priests in the Beis HaMikdash, is what actually achieved atonement for the people that brought the korban. So what's this whole idea of eating? And why is it so important that there's such an emphasis on it? And especially when it comes to the concept of the korban, we say that the secret of the korban goes up all the way to the secret of the Ein Sof, that embedded within, concealed within the korban, is something so powerful, so lofty, so great as the Ein Sof. So, how does that? So the Rebbe says we need to understand that in the context of the consumption of man, meaning the kohanim, and the consumption of the mizbeach, meaning the altar. It would seem that the consumption of man is more important because that's what achieves atonement for the person that brings the korban. But on the other hand, the simple definition, the logical definition of this phrase, the secret of the korban rises up to the secret of the Ein Sof, is a reference to bringing the korban on the mizbeach, on the altar, rather than the consumption of man. So what's this whole idea of consumption in the context of these situations, korbanos and the angels? So the Rebbe begins to explain what is the idea of korbanos, beruchnius, in the spiritual sense. That's where we're up to. Chapter 3, Shiur Inyan. The explanation of this matter is the Hinei Inyan HaKorbanos. For the concept of korbanos, sacrificial offerings, is what? Hu sheikrivu behema gashmis. That one offered a physical animal al gabi hamizbeach, onto the altar. The Gemara says that on the mizbeach there was a fire that came down from heaven. There was a mitzvah to light a fire on the mizbeach, but at the same time there was also a fire that came down from heaven. That was a miracle. And according to one opinion in the Gemara, certainly it was in the shape of a lion. In the spiritual sense, the Rebbe explains, this physical animal that one brought onto the altar, a physical animal onto a physical altar, was v'nichleles be'eshel maila, became consumed within, was consumed by this celestial fire. Bechinas aryeh de ochel kurbanim. It's the concept of a lion that ate the korban, that consumed the korban, the sacrificial offering.
There was no fire below.
There was. Like I said, there was a mitzvah. Even the Gemara says, even though there was a fire that came down from above, mitzvah lahavim min hahedyet. There was a mitzvah for people down here below to bring the fire. Also, we say it in the korbanos every morning. The Atzi Hamarocha. You had to bring wood onto the fire, but then the fire came down from heaven and was on top of the mizbeach. But nevertheless, it was obligated. The Kohanim were obligated to bring fire onto the mizbeach on their own. Now, what's this idea of a lion? It immediately conjures up the concept of the Merkava, the celestial throne, in the Nevuah of Yecheskel, right? Where you have the Pnei Shiur, Pnei Aryeh, Pnei Nesher, and Pnei Adam. Right? The face of the ox, the face of the lion, the face of the eagle, and the face of man. In the spiritual sense, obviously, there are the four pillars, as it were, of the celestial throne. The Merkava HaElyona. We're going to get to that in a minute. So how does it work? The spiritual dimension of the korban is pnei shor, face of the ox, the animal. What happens with that? It's consumed by the arya, by the lion. Behind it. You have to just bear with the subject for a minute because it's rather. We learned it already once a while ago, but it's rather a little bit lengthy here. The Rebbe elaborates and then comes back to it. This is the spiritual dynamic of a korban. That's what the Rebbe is explaining.
So what are we saying? That the animal you gave was consumed to
the spiritual dimension of the physical animal is the pnei shor, is the celestial ox, as it were. And that was consumed by the pnei arya, by the celestial lion. That's the idea of the fire being in the form of a lion. Let's see how the Rebbe explains it. It goes through it. The physical animal is consumed, is taken up, goes up into, as it were, the pnei shor, the celestial ox. And through that, it is now consumed by and incorporated into the pnei arya, the lion. It's this idea of the lion that consumes the korban. What does that mean in spheres, in the celestial divine attributes? What are we talking about? What is this arya de ochel kurbanin in spheres? Malchus da asilas moker habiyah. That's the idea. It's the final of all of the 10 divine attributes in the realm of Atzilus, in the realm of emanation, which is the source of Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. Malchus is the source of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, the three worlds that follow, the three realms that follow Atzilus, the world of emanation. So, in other words, in simple terms, Vahainu, the Ha'aloas HaKarbonis, Hu b'Malchus Atzilus Moker Debiyah.
So the lion is located in Malchus.
In Spheris, it's a reference to Malchus Atzilus, yeah.
That's with the altar, that's with the face, that's with the lion is.
Correct. Shor, I believe, would probably mean, I guess in this context, probably mean Bria. Because that's Shor is also a reference to the angels and so on and so forth, which are like the holy animals, as it were. The holy Chayas HaKodesh is in Bria. But the bottom line is, it's Kabbalistic, but the point that Rebbe is making is the korban rises up to Malchus of Atzilus. That's the spiritual ascent of the korban.
Yeah.
Now, another aspect is we have to see how was the Beis Hamikdash set out. In the Beis Hamikdash you had the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. Then you had the Heichal, the main chamber. Then you had the Chotzer, right? The courtyard. It was for a reason, because it corresponded to spiritual realms. And the Rebbe explains. Because the korban rises up until where? Until Malchus of Atzilus, which is the source of Biyah, to the divine attribute of Malchus of Atzilus, which is the source of Biyah. Therefore, where did you bring the korban? Where was the korban burnt? On which Mizbeach? On the external Mizbeach, rather than the internal one, which was situated where? In the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash. Why? The Rebbe explains. In the Beis HaMikdash, Mishkan hayu gimel diyurim. In the Beis HaMikdash, and so too in the Mishkan, there were 3 compartments. There were 3 sections. Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. Oimeid, which is the Heichal, the main chamber. The Chotzer Oimeid, and the courtyard of the main chamber. What do these 3 sections of the Beis HaMikdash and Mishkan correspond to? Keneget Las Almin. They correspond to the 3 worlds. Right? But over here the Rebbe says, not the 3 worlds of Bri, Yitzira, Asiya, but rather in the general sense. In the general sense, you have Olam HaYisof, which means the realms that are beyond Atzilus, or the level of godliness which is beyond Atzilus, beyond the world of emanation, which is in the realm of Ein Sof, the infinite. Then you have Atzilus, the world of emanation, which is the first of the 4, so to speak. And then you have the rest of them, which is Biyah, Bri, Yitzira, Asiya, which is already the realm of the created. Right? These 3 compartments in the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash corresponded to these 3 sections, as it were, of the celestial worlds. The Kodesh HaKadoshim, so these correspond to the three general levels, the three general delineations of worlds, spiritual realms. The first one being the infinite worlds, which are before Atzilus, before the world of emanation. The next section is the world of emanation, and the next section is Biyah, the realms of Bria Tzir Asiyah, which is already, they're all bracketed together because they're in the realm of the created. The Kodesh HaKadoshim Mechuven HaGadol Mesiyasav Shlifnei Atzilus. The Holy of Holies corresponds to what? To those realms that are infinite, which are beyond the world of realm of emanation. The main chamber of the Beis Hamikdash and Mishkan correspond to what? To the realm of emanation, to the realm of Atzilus. And the courtyard of the temple, and the courtyard of the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the desert, that corresponds to what? To the worlds of Bria Tzir Asiyah, which are in the realm of the created. And of course, that was represented in the varying degrees of Kedusha, of holiness, that existed in each one. The Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, being the holiest, and the courtyard being the lesser of the three. Where did we offer the Karbanis? The offering of the Karbanis took place where? On the exterior altar in the courtyard of the Mishkan. And so to where? In the Beis HaMikdash. Why? The Mizbeach bechinas Malchus. The Mizbeach corresponds to Malchus, to the attribute of Malchus Atzilus. Mishkan, and it's situated where? In the courtyard of the Mishkan, which is a reference Hainu Kameshu Makar Libya, as it is a source for Bia, for Bria Tzir Asiyah. V'Hainu Shalos HaKarban B'Malchus Atzilus Kameshu Libya, which means to say that we lift up the Karban through offering the Karban, the sacrificial offering. We lift it up to the level of Malchus, the last of the 10 attributes of Atzilus, as it becomes a source for Bria Tzir Asiyah. What does that mean? The Rebbe just finished saying that what? That the exterior section of the Mishkan corresponds to Bia, Bria Tzir Asiyah. What are we talking about Malchus of Atzilus over here all of a sudden? So yes, the courtyard. So because first of all, it's important to understand that in Malchus, it has two aspects to it. Malchus is the last of the 10 of Atzilus, but it also is the other half of Malchus becomes a source for Bia. Yeah. Here we're talking about Malchus as it becomes already a source for Bria Tzir Asiyah. So the courtyard itself is what? Bria Tzir Asiyah. The Mizbeach, the altar in the courtyard, is Malchus of Atzilus as it becomes a source for Bia, because the Mizbeach, of course, was a higher degree of holiness, as it were, because that's upon which you brought the korban. So that's the idea, that we brought the korban onto the altar in the courtyard of the temple, meaning to say we lifted up the korban through our action up until where? Malchus of Atzilus. But then, of course, you had a fire that came down from above. That's already Zoh of Atzilus, as we're going to learn in a minute.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So this is where the Rebbe is leading, and of course, once we'll go through all of that, the question will come up. We just said that would
be in the middle courtyard.
Correct.
But then, how did the fire?
Or even higher? No.
How did the fire?
Wait. Okay. Balzen. The Rebbe will explain that.
The fire comes to the outer courtyard.
It comes to the outer courtyard, but it's from above, so to speak. That's the part of it.
It doesn't come to the middle courtyard.
No, it comes from above.
Which represents...
Beruchnius, yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. So you have it again like this. The korban is brought onto the Mizbeach, which is in the exterior, into the courtyard.
Yeah.
Which means to say, you're lifting the korban up until where? Malchus of Atzilus. The courtyard being Bia, the Mizbeach being Malchus of Atzilus as it becomes a source for Bia. Upon that you bring the korban. So you're lifting the korban to where? To Malchus of Atzilus.
Yeah.
Then you have the reaction from above. That's the initiative from below, the Mayim Nukvin, the female waters, as it were,
right.
that cause the reaction from above, which is Malchus of Atzilus, which would be up to Malchus of Atzilus. It causes a reaction from above, which would be Zoh of Atzilus, which is the fire, the Arya.
Yeah.
But then we have a problem, because we just said Rosa the Korban Rosa the Ein Sof. The secret of the korban reaches all the way to where?
Ein Sof.
To the Ein Sof. So that's where the Rebbe is going to get into it. And the Rebbe is also going to explain that the fire is the Achilas Adam. Zo, of course, is called man. Zo is Adam. Malchus is the lower level. So this is where the Rebbe is leading with all of it. It's going to be a little intricate to get through it, but once we get into it, I think the screen will become apparent.